In recent years, global debates surrounding genetically modified organisms, GMOs, have centered on their role in agriculture, food security, and public health. Russia, under the leadership of Vladimir Putin, has taken a unique and firm stance on this issue. Unlike many Western nations that have embraced GMOs for their potential to enhance crop yields and withstand adverse environmental conditions, Russia has chosen a path of caution, emphasizing natural and sustainable agricultural practices. Putin's policies reflect a broader vision for Russia's self-sufficiency in food production, aligned with nationalistic goals and a desire to reduce dependence on foreign imports. The Russian government has introduced strict laws prohibiting the cultivation and distribution of genetically engineered organisms, citing concerns about health, environmental safety, and economic independence. This introduction sets the stage for an in-depth exploration of how these policies shape Russia's agricultural landscape, global trade relationships, and food security strategies. Russia's resistance to genetically modified organisms has deep roots in its national food security priorities. In 2010, the adoption of the food security doctrine marked a turning point in the country's approach to agriculture. This doctrine emphasized reducing reliance on imported food products and achieving self-sufficiency in key agricultural commodities by 2022. The policy framework reflected both geopolitical concerns and a cultural preference for natural unmodified food, as public sentiment in Russia has long leaned heavily against GMOs, with surveys showing approximately 80% of the population expressing skepticism or outright fear of these technologies. The backdrop to this cautious approach includes the rapid adoption of GMOs in Western nations during the 1990s and early 2000s. While countries like the United States promoted GMO crops to boost productivity, Russia viewed this trend with suspicion. Leaders framed the technology as potentially harmful to human health and the environment, casting it as a Western economic tool that conflicted with Russian interests. The historical aversion to GMOs laid the foundation for stricter regulations under Vladimir Putin's leadership, eventually culminating in comprehensive bans on their use and cultivation. These early measures signaled Russia's intent to prioritize its agricultural independence over global trends in biotechnology. Under Vladimir Putin's administration, Russia solidified its stance against genetically modified organisms through stringent legislation. In 2016, a major milestone was reached when Putin signed Federal Law 358Z, which banned the cultivation and breeding of genetically modified plants and animals within Russia, except for use in scientific research. This law positioned Russia as one of the few global powers with a comprehensive national ban on GMOs, underscoring the country's commitment to natural agriculture. The law reflected mounting concerns about potential risks associated with GMOs, ranging from health hazards to environmental degradation. It also aligned with the country's long-term vision of agricultural independence, as enshrined in the Food Security Doctrine of 2010. By preventing the widespread introduction of genetically modified crops, the government aimed to protect biodiversity and support the growth of domestic seed production industries. In 2020, Russia updated its food security doctrine to expand on these principles. The revised policy emphasized preventing the import of genetically engineered seeds and set self-sufficiency targets for key agricultural products. The doctrine also underscored the importance of maintaining natural farming practices to ensure high-quality food production and environmental preservation. These legislative actions have been pivotal in shaping Russia's agricultural policy and creating a clear divide between the country's approach and the strategies adopted by GMO-friendly nations. By embedding these measures in law, Russia reaffirmed its commitment to sustainability and food sovereignty. Russia's restrictive GMO policies have had significant impacts on its agricultural sector and overall food security. By prioritizing non-GMO farming methods, the country has carved a niche for itself as a global supplier of organic and natural agricultural products. Over the past decade, Russia has emerged as one of the world's largest exporters of wheat, capitalizing on growing international demand for non-GMO grains. Other key products, including soybeans, barley, and sunflower oil, have also benefited from this approach, enhancing Russia's standing in global agricultural markets. Domestically, these policies have spurred the growth of sustainable farming practices. Russian farmers have adapted to the ban by focusing on the production of high-quality crops that meet organic standards. Government subsidies and investment in agricultural technology have further supported this transition, ensuring that local producers remain competitive without relying on genetically engineered seeds. However, challenges persist. The agricultural sector is highly vulnerable to environmental factors, including droughts and extreme weather conditions that can severely impact crop yields. While non-GMO farming methods are environmentally conscious, they can sometimes result in lower productivity compared to GMO-enhanced methods. This poses a potential risk to Russia's food security, particularly during periods of poor harvests. Additionally, the push for self-sufficiency has highlighted gaps in domestic seed production. Developing a robust infrastructure for non-GMO seed breeding remains a work in progress, as Russia seeks to replace imported seeds with homegrown varieties. Despite these hurdles, Russia's agricultural exports and rising self-reliance reflect the broader success of its anti-GMO policies. The emphasis on natural farming not only supports national food security, but also reinforces Russia's image as a proponent of environmentally friendly agriculture. Russia's anti-GMO policies have shaped its role on the global agricultural stage, giving the country a competitive edge in non-GMO markets. As the world increasingly values organic and natural food products, Russia has positioned itself as a key exporter of GMO-free grains, oilseeds, and other agricultural commodities. This distinction has allowed the country to secure lucrative trade agreements, particularly with regions where GMO skepticism is prevalent, such as the European Union and parts of Asia. Beyond trade, Russia's policies align with its geopolitical ambitions. By promoting non-GMO agriculture, Russia differentiates itself from Western agricultural giants like the United States and Canada, where GMO farming is dominant. This contrast enhances Russia's soft power, especially among nations that share concerns about genetically modified crops. Additionally, collaborations within BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have furthered Russia's efforts to reshape global food systems. Proposals like the BRICS Grain Exchange aim to establish fair pricing mechanisms and reduce dependency on Western markets. By focusing on non-GMO products, Russia leverages its agricultural policies to foster stronger ties with these nations and bolster its influence in global food security discussions. Through these strategies, Russia has turned its domestic policies into an instrument of international leverage, blending agricultural independence with broader geopolitical goals. Russia's anti-GMO policies under Vladimir Putin reflect a strategic blend of health concerns, environmental preservation, and economic independence. By banning the cultivation and import of genetically modified organisms, Russia has aligned its agricultural system with its broader goals of food security and self-sufficiency. These policies have positioned the nation as a leading exporter of natural, non-GMO products, while bolstering its domestic farming industries. However, challenges such as climate vulnerability and gaps in seed production persist. As global demand for sustainable and organic food grows, Russia's stance on GMOs underscores its commitment to sovereignty and environmental responsibility in agriculture.